What's going on, Flock? It is 5:05 Eastern in the early evening hours on Thursday, October 17th. I'm Bobby Trosset. As always, this is where I bring you Baltimore sports and beyond, and tonight's live stream is brought to you by BetUS. We are gearing up for Week 7 of this NFL regular season. The 4-2 Ravens will travel to Tampa Bay for a Monday night matchup with the Buccaneers, who are also 4-2. Baker Mayfield playing really good ball. Mike Evans playing really good ball. This is an offensive powerhouse, and the Ravens certainly know a thing or two about being exactly that. I'm going to give you my prediction coming up in this stream as well. But off the top, NFL Hall of Famer Troy Aikman had some things to say that surprised me, and certainly things have come full circle here in Baltimore with the wide receiver position. And so Troy, who's going to be calling Monday Night Football with Joe Buck, had some things to say after watching the tape of Ravens wide receiver play tape. So some interesting things there. And then that'll perfectly translate into the conversation that Dan Orlovsky and ESPN had earlier today, which was ranking the top 5 QB and wide receiver duos across the league. And spoiler alert, Lamar and Zay were named on that list. Where exactly? I'll tell you, give you an update on injuries, both from Baltimore and Tampa Bay's perspective. Reports just came out within the last 30 minutes or so, and take a look at what the Ravens cap situation is going into the November 5th NFL trade deadline. So, and without further ado, we've got quite a bit to get to. Glad you're here. Like the video if you've been enjoying the content, subscribe to the channel, do all those good things to help us out on the back end. Here is Troy Aikman's comments recently when asked about Dallas's issue, and they got a lot of issues, the Dallas Cowboys, but he was asked specifically about their wide receivers, the Cowboys. And he was quoted for saying, "I think the routes are terrible. I think they run terrible routes, and I've thought that beyond this year. I think CD has got to improve in his route running. As a quarterback, if you're not certain where guys are going to be consistently, it's hard to play the position. That's what I see. I see guys lazy coming off the line of scrimmage. Sometimes they run. Usually if they do, it's because they're anticipating they're going to get the football on that play. But if they're not, they don't. And it all ties together. I'm not impressed with that part of it." Now, here we go, out of left field. You ready for this? "I just finished watching the Baltimore Ravens because I have them this week. You put on film of theirs and watch their receivers run routes, and they come off the football. So does San Francisco's and Green Bay's and others. But it's hard to play the position if you're not certain how guys are going to run routes or where they're going to be. And I'm not speaking for Dak. Dak may say, hey, I think their routes are amazing. But as a former QB watching it, it's got to get a lot better." Now, the majority of this paragraph, 2 paragraphs that you're seeing here on the screen, is obviously related to Dallas's issues offensively. But the fact that the first team that came to mind, and granted, I get it, maybe it's fresh in his mind because he's doing prep for Monday Night Football. But the fact that the Ravens wide receivers are coming out of Troy Aikman's mouth when thinking about silky, smooth, polished route running ability, that right there, that's surprising, given throughout the Lamar era just how many limitations they've had playmaking-wise around him at that position. Quote, "You put on film of theirs and watch their receivers run routes, and they come off the football." I mean, what a turn of events. But guess what? Zay Flowers is playing like a Baltimore number 1 wide receiver, coming off a career first half, I would say a career game. But he put up 9 receptions for 132 yards in the first half last week against the Commanders. We know that Rashad Bateman is playing complimentary football right now. We know since his days coming out of Minnesota, he has always been well regarded, highly regarded when it comes to his polished route running abilities. And outside of those two, they've been getting contributions from pass catching tight ends for years. And now they have the trio that is Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and Charlie Kohler. Nelson Aguilar, when called upon, has been reliable for this team. And there's other guys around. Tylan Wallace getting an opportunity here and there. Devontae Walker is a rookie who hasn't yet suited up in terms of regular season gameplay. But the first thing that I think Troy is pointing out here probably is watching a lot of film of the first two guys that I mentioned, Zay and Rashad. And it's really, I point this out really to just acknowledge how far the Ravens have come. Because it wasn't all that long ago that wide receiver room was a laughing stock in this league. I'm not saying they're upper echelon. I'm just saying there's improvement. And they're finally not at the bottom corridor of the NFL where you don't want to be in that category. Troy Aikman, big things to say about a couple of Baltimore's wide receiver room. Now, along those lines, Zay, speaking of Zay himself, went on Good Morning Football today and essentially showed some selflessness, but also sent a message to the league when it comes to who they have in their backfield, which goes to really the point of the entire last year around these parts in Baltimore. And that is there's a lot of mouths that need to be fed, but it seems as if they've concocted and built a culture internally that even though there are a plethora of mouths they got to be fed, they all seem to be or appear to be selfless and playing for one another.
And now you've got Likely and you've got Kohler and you've got Derrick Henry in the backfield and Justice Hill. It's always like the receivers are like the last ones mentioned, and yet you guys are having quite a season as well. What's it like inside that room? Maybe not given the national love of other wide receivers and maybe wide receiver groups that you hear about from 31 other teams.
I mean, we passionate about it because, you know, it's like a thing going around saying the Ravens don't have receivers and this and that, but y'all don't have Derrick Henry, so let me see what y'all do if y'all got Derrick Henry.
The ultimate
so we got to run the ball because we got him. We always had a good rushing game, so it's like you always got to balance it out. And if your rushing game good, you just got to keep going with what you winning you the games.
Acknowledges some of the noise of those who have overlooked their wide receiver room, maybe even made fun of their wide receiver room prior to him coming to Baltimore, but then also makes it super clear. Quote, y'all don't have Derrick Henry, so let's see what y'all do about Derrick Henry. You always got to balance it out, and if your rushing game's good, you just got to keep going with what's winning you games. Fantastic mindset there from Zay. Off to a really stellar start this year, particularly these last couple weeks. And because of that and more, Dan Orlovsky and Harry Douglas, NFL analysts for ESPN, here's where they ranked Zay and Lamar in terms of wide receiver quarterback duos across the league, respectively.
Number 4, we're going to go to Baltimore. Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson. Zay Flowers, when he came out in the draft last year, was my favorite wide receiver. He reminds me of a faster, more twitchier Stephon Diggs. The speed, the releases off the line of scrimmage, the way he provides himself, catches the football with his hands, but if he needs to do it with his body, he's able to do that. I love this combination between those two guys.
Been killing the last 2 weeks.
Number 4 in the league, according to Harry and Dan. Here is the overall list. Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson come in at 5. Zay and Lamar, 4. Baker and Mike Evans, 3, who the Ravens, of course, will see on Monday night. Some news on Mike Evans and where his health status is coming up in just a short few minutes. Jamar and Joe and Cincy at 2. And Nico Collins and CJ Stroud lead the list here, according to Dan and Harry. So, look, I'm not here to argue who should be where. I'm just here to acknowledge the fact that the Ravens actually have a duo at quarterback and wide receiver that are held in enough regard to be viewed as a top 5 tandem. It has been a long, long, long time since a graphic like this could be displayed up on the screen. And again, Zay may not be a true bona fide number 1 around the league. But for Baltimore, given what they have at the quarterback position, given the upgrade they now have in their backfield, along with a very talented and deep tight end room, he can absolutely be a more than serviceable number 1 for what the Ravens need. And what they need is a win coming up on Monday night, which allows me to remind you that this episode is brought to you by my friends at BetUS. And right now at betus.com, here you have it. Week 7, Monday Night Football. BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your second and third deposits. All you have to do is use the promo code YouTube150. That is YouTube150 to be eligible. I'm expecting this one to be a high-scoring one. Here's what BetUS has. 3.5 point road favorites are the Ravens going into this Monday matchup with the Buccaneers. The over-under set at 49.5. And just taking a look at various game props that they have available. Tampa Bay's total touchdowns count over-under set at 2.5. Time of the first score over-under 7 minutes elapsed. We know how dominant the Ravens have been on opening scripted drives. The race to 20 points, but I've been looking at this. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. So perhaps something like any team to score 40-plus points is something that you take a look at, or both teams to score 24.5. Maybe that's something that you look at. Bottom line is 2 high-powered, potent offenses. Yet again, we said that last week between the Commanders and Ravens, and we will certainly be saying that again coming up on Monday night in Tampa Bay. Again, betus.com. Use the promo code YouTube150 so that you can be eligible for that 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your second and third deposits. Let's keep this conversation moving. You heard what Zay had to say there on Good Morning Football. Y'all don't have Derrick Henry, so let's see what y'all do about Derrick Henry. You always got to balance it out. And if your rushing game's good, you just got to keep going with what's winning you games. Well, what's winning them games right now is just a combustible engine. This is a freight train offense being led by Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson. This unit ranks first in total offense with 453.7 yards per game. They rank first on the ground in rushing offense with over 205 yards per game. They rank 8th, talk about balance, in passing offense with over 248 passing yards per game. They rank 4th in points per game, averaging 29.5. They rank first in third down offense, 51.5% of the time they're converting. They rank 5th in fourth down offense at 75%. And first in red zone offense with a 75% touchdown rate. Yeah. That's clicking on all cylinders. They're cleaning up the penalties. Obviously still not statistically ranked very well at all. 28th, matter of fact, through 6 weeks in penalties with 47. Turnover margin, 13th overall. Penalty yards, 30th overall with 411. So those two they were gashed earlier on in the season. That's bad. But offensively speaking, this group has been a wagon. And a lot of it has to do with Kobe and Shaq. First in yards per game. First in rushing yards per game. First in third down percentage. First in red zone touchdown percentage. First in sacks allowed. First in downs per game. And look at what these guys are doing. I know I just read off some of these statistics, but look at what these two are doing. Lamar's averaging 6.3 yards per carry. That leads the league. And Derrick's just below him at 5.9. Overall, 5.9 yards per carry, that stands number 1 in the league. That's a team average. So to say that this team has been clicking doesn't tell the full story at all. But what I think did tell the story as only he can do it earlier today, was Lamar Jackson himself, who's just incredibly comfortable executing his role at quarterback under the tutelage of Todd Monken, who has completely opened up the game for him.
I just think my everything is like slowing down even more just from the years I've been in the league, and seeing all type of defenses, seeing all type of blitzes. Everything is just second nature right now. So I'm just trying to be a better player myself, each and every year. So I just say everything's just slowing down. That's what's helping it.
Slowing down indeed. It sure looks like it. He's never looked this comfortable. And when he's saying it's slowing down, well, of course, you've been in the league for 6+ seasons now. This is year 7. But when you have somebody in the backfield that every single defensive coordinator every single week is going to have to take into account for in Derrick Henry, that makes life a little bit more simpler for you. I thought Kyle Van Noy, the veteran, the old head in this group, has been doing a fantastic job of standing down 10 toes for his quarterback and somebody that he has continued to share his veteran perspective on.
At an MVP level, I've been so impressed with him. Just not as just a teammate, but as a fan watching too. Like he's 101, man. It is so awesome to be on his team and just watching from afar of what he's doing. I mean, everybody's going to talk about him, and when you talk about him, you're talking about all of us, right? He represents the whole team, and we take that to heart, and we want to just continue to prove he's right. And he's been right since day one when he was drafted, and everybody was hating on him, saying he should play receiver or running back. Like, nah, he's a quarterback, and he's going to continue to show you each and every week. Keep dotting them up on the field and keep running the rock, being that dual threat quarterback that is changing the game. He's changing the game.
KVN. Great quotes there from Baltimore's veteran linebacker. Quote, when you talk about him, you're talking about all of us. He represents the whole team. We take that to heart. We want to continue to prove he's right. He's been right since day one. I'm telling you what, since day one, Kyle Van Noy has absolutely hit the ground running in Baltimore. He is on the other side of 30. He is a top 5 sack getter right now through 6 weeks. He is your reigning AFC Defensive Player of the Month from September, and somebody who I think if the Ravens go the distance, we will look back at that signing and a number of other moves made by Eric DeCosta and company. But that signing in particular, given his championship pedigree, given how much he's bolstered that outside linebacker room, the experience that's come along with him, the way that he, with his platform, builds Lamar and his other teammates up. Hard to measure truly the impact that KVN has made, but what I do know is, I love this phrase. He is an absolute glue guy for the Baltimore Ravens. Josh Hoffman, I appreciate the super chat donation. Thanks for being here. 500 of you plus strong. I'll open up the guest lines in just a bit, by the way. I dropped the live chat link into the chat, so would love for you guys to access that if you're interested in calling in to share a thought with me this week. And Josh writes, if we see another playoff game where the running backs gets 4 carries each, none of this matters. I can't help but think of it when we talk about this. Yeah, I get it, man. It's something that hangs over the heads, I'm sure, of some within this organization. How many interviews has Lamar done saying that he's really not over the AFC title game in recent months? Reality is they had their chances, and while the amount of carries that their backs got were unacceptable last year, they had their shots in that game. They had their chances, and so I choose to kind of actually zone in on other nuances from that game rather than the workload for the backs. But absolutely goes without saying that can't happen again. Let's take a look at what's going on. The Tampa Bay perspective coming up on Monday night. Todd Bowles says that Mike Evans, their number 1 wide receiver, tweaked something in his leg that had been nagging but expects him to practice later this week. Of course, he and Baker were a part of that top 5 quarterback wide receiver duo list that I mentioned earlier on in the stream. But what's interesting here is that this will be something to watch because Mike was one of the DNPs on Wednesday for Tampa Bay. Pretty hefty list for the Bucs. Graham Barton, center, limited with a hamstring. Outside linebacker, Chris Braswell, limited with a shoulder. Ernest Brown, defensive lineman, full participant with ribs. Jamel Dean, corner, DNP with a hamstring. Tight end, Payne Durham, DNP with a calf. Mike Evans is the big one. Obviously, we're going to have to watch that one closely. Antoine Winfield Jr., talented safety, limited with a foot. Rashad White, running back, limited with a foot. Trey Palmer, wide receiver, limited with a concussion. Cameron Johnson, DNP, ankle. Rakeem Jarrett, wide receiver, limited with a knee, so on and so forth. But the big one is Mike Evans because of the way in which this Tampa offense quite literally runs directly through him. As far as the Baltimore perspective, a shorter list. Rasheen Ali, rookie 5th-round running back out of Marshall, limited with an ankle. Malik Harrison, DNP, groin. He did not play last weekend. Deontay Hardy, knee seems to be nagging him. He's missed a few games in recent weeks. He was a DNP today. Arthur Maulet, limited with that knee/hamstring designation. Arthur is the nickel corner who began the season on IR after that arthroscopic knee procedure at the later half of the summer. They could really use him getting back in the flow. Brent Urban was a DNP with an illness. Broderick Washington, limited with a knee. Just to keep in mind, both Deontay Hardy and Brent Urban, as Jonas noted here on X, played until late into the 4th quarter against the Commanders. Hopefully they're just getting some time underneath them. But that is your Wednesday injury report from a Baltimore perspective. Torres is in the waiting room. You know he's got something to say. It's been a couple weeks. Missed the Texas. If you guys want to pop on, I will open up the guest lines here shortly. You can access it by clicking on the link that I have included in the live chat that I just dropped in there. But being that the November 5th trade deadline is right around the corner, I just wanted to catch you up to speed on what's going on with the cap situation. And Brian McFarland, Ravens salary cap analyst, did exactly that for us. Brian notes that it's a reminder that the Ravens have made ample trade capital, 11 picks. And I should say they haven't made it. They have ample trade capital, which is 11 picks, to make moves, albeit likely late picks in each round, like Brian notes here. They have all of their own 7 picks and are expecting 4 compensatory picks, 1 in the 4th, 2 in the 5th, and 1 in the 6th. The Ravens presently have just under $4 million in cap space, but will likely need most of that for injury replacements and practice squad elevations. They do have restructure candidates in Lamar, Andrews, Marlon, and Marcus. Restructuring Lamar now would create $7 million in cap space at the deadline, $5.25 million. Restructuring Marlon, or Marcus comes with some risk given their ages, contract status, and or poor play. Restructuring Marlon now would create $5.27 million, and then at the deadline, over $3.9 million. He just goes on to specifically note what kind of restructures would give what kind of money. The reason why I bring this up, I continue to believe that if there was one position the Ravens would be wise to address between now and November 5th, I'm thinking it's pass rush. Taurus, let's see what you have to think. Live chat, what's the one position that you're addressing acquisition-wise between now and the November 5th trade deadline? Is it addressing the secondary? They have a whole lot of money invested in that secondary. Is it the middle part of the field? Is it up front? Or maybe is it a wild card wide receiver to add to the group of what they currently have? Curious to see what you guys have to say. The live chat is rolling. Over 500 of you joining me concurrently this evening. Please like the video if you haven't already done so. Subscribe to the channel. hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when I'm dropping my daily live content. Let's go down to Texas and see what Torres has to say, particularly about that question that I just asked. What position are you getting after right now between today and that November 5th trade deadline? Talk to us. Oh, my God. Torres is nowhere to be found. Okay, let's give you a shot now. What's up, brother?
Yeah, I seen the connection going crazy. I was able to kind of side
Hit
real
me.
fast. Yeah, man, what's going on, Bobby? Can
Good to
you
see
hear
you,
me?
man.
Good to see you too, man. Good to see y'all too, man. How y'all feeling, man? Chat, what's going on, man? If I had to address any position, and this is not my take, I gotta give credit. Shouts out to my dog, Fresh Life. Uh, I feel it got to be pass rush, and anybody in particular. I feel like if Cleveland is blowing it up, I'm right along with my dog Fresh. He said go for Myles Garrett. When I did the homework, unless I'm interpreting it, unless I'm seeing it wrong, I think his contract, his base salary right now is $1 million. Why not go for it? Why not, Cleveland? Just give him up, man. Just give him up, man. We
Oh,
could
my God.
love
Can
it.
you
We would
imagine
love
an
that.
in-division trade? That seems like super
I know.
unlikely. But
It is, but still, Bobby. I just feel like that move that they did with giving Amari Cooper to the Bills is just as bad. I'm like, why are you helping the Bills? Why are you helping the Bills by giving them Amari Cooper? Y'all could have put him in the NFC, but you guys kept him right along and gave him to a contending team. You know, I didn't like that, man. I didn't like that at
Cleveland,
all.
when's the last time anybody has enjoyed something that Cleveland's done?
Yeah.
I mean,
Great
they're
point. Great
they're in the
point.
middle of
Great
the
point.
worst acquisition in the history of professional sports. There is no way out. Deshaun's legal side of things is not going to allow them to get out of this contract,
Yeah.
and they're 1-5 right now. Sure, they were playing competitively against Philadelphia last weekend, but the reality is this is a team that's just going in the complete opposite direction. Maybe they play spoil ball later on in the season. I could see that happening. But the fact that they let Joe Flacco walk out the building,
Mhm.
and honestly, regardless of the Joe conversation, because I've already made my point clear on that, more importantly, the fact that they're not even considering turning the keys over to Jameis tells you all you need to know about this group. It is an ownership malpractice that's going on right now in Cleveland, and they only have themselves to blame. And so I'm not going to sit here and like circle the two games coming up that the Ravens have yet to play against Cleveland as
True.
guaranteed wins, because we know that you can essentially throw everything out for in-division play. But what I do know is they're going nowhere fast.
Absolutely, man. Just to make a tempting too, Bobby, even, going along with what you said, it's not likely to happen just because it's in division. But I'd be willing to give up a third. I really would for Myles Garrett. Even if it's a 1 or 2 year rental, I'd be willing to do it. Absolutely. I would.
In-division would absolutely shock me, but I appreciate your creativity today, and you speak it
Yeah.
into existence out there. All right.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's right, Bobby. Man, you gotta get it going, man. I feel like Derek and Lamar, in all my years of watching football, this is definitely the greatest duo I've ever seen. Ever.
I appreciate the call, brother. Thank
No
you as
problem, man.
always. Mixing it
23
up.
and 1, Bobby.
As usual, you're always mixing it up in the live chat. I gotta love it. And to Torres's point, if there is a sense of urgency right now, um, then I don't think it's ever going to get more real than right now. There is a window. That window is open. Maybe not as open as last year with some of the quarterback injuries, and we know the opportunity that they had as they made their way into the postseason and obviously onto the AFC Championship game. But the reality is aggressiveness sometimes from a team building standpoint, this time of year with the deadline looming, aggressiveness can pay major dividends. And as every single year, even if you have to kick cash down the road, right, with void years, um, damn, Lamar's got you in this unique position right now. Derek has this team in this unique position, and the window's open, but sometimes that window can be brief. So see if Eric DaCosta acts like that coming up prior to November 5th. Dre and then Julian, appreciate you guys for being here. The live chat and guest lines are open. There's a link to join in the live chat if you'd like to pop on and talk deadline, talk Ravens football entering week 7, Tampa Bay, Baltimore coming up Monday Night Football. And this whole stream was built around Troy Aikman's comments about the wide receiver room, which is still hard to believe, but that's where we stand. Dre, talk to me. How you doing, brother?
What's up, man? Can you hear me okay?
As always.
All right, man. I just, for me, the one position that I would say I would go after from a depth perspective, I would definitely go after a wide receiver. I don't want us limping. God forbid anybody in our wide receiver core gets hurt, right? But I want us to stay as multidimensional as possible. So right now we have a pretty good setup 1-2 punch with Derrick Henry and Justice. And then we got Keaton coming. So we're good right there for our one. But our number two punch is our wideouts and our tight ends. And I really feel like, if we could add a more solid option than Nelson Aguilar. I like what he does, but I feel like if we could get a legitimate 2B to Rashad's 2A to solidify that wide receiver room, that would be great going into the playoffs. Because if God forbid one of those guys go down, man, and we're in the playoffs with just Zay or just Bate, it changes the complexion of the team, especially based off the statistics we're seeing. Like, these guys are playing great, better than what I think some of the Ravens fans want to give credit for because we're so sour about the wide receiver position.
You'd rather allocate resources to that position than the other side of the ball?
Yeah. I think on pass rush, I think we'll be okay. I think between Matabike, Travis Jones coming on, Adafe always being around the ball, Kyle Van Noy. I don't know if something's going on with David Ajabo. I don't know what's going on there, but I hope they can get him back integrated more. And not to forget, we still got Tavius Robinson, who has flashed, and that was Kadri Ishmael's, breakout guy. He thought Tavius was going to do some crazy work. So I think even if, goodness forbid, we lose one of our pass rushers or edge rushers, I think we got enough up front to make up for it.
Well, I can tell you what the last couple of weeks have been like for Kyle Van Noy because he told everybody on his Yahoo Sports podcast earlier this week. And so listen to this, Dre. We'll react to it on the other side.
Better job of learning how to play chips and double teams and slides. I need to do a better job of watching other guys from TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, because I believe the last 2 weeks I've been double teamed a lot. I've been chipped a lot. It's been frustrating. I haven't had many chances of one-on-one. I just need to, when those do occur, the one-on-ones, I need to take advantage of those. And I'm going to do a lot of research this week and going forward to do a better job of getting better to impact rushing more. But I will say I made championship winning plays. There's a couple plays that I made in the game where, Austin Eckler had a screen pass that had nothing but green grass, and I was able to read it and come off what my job was to override and take the screen pass because I read it, and Jaden Daniels pump fake. And if he was able to complete that pass, the whole defense was on the left side of the formation. So it would have been a bad play, but I was able to make that play. So those plays are awesome to make. They don't go noticed on the stat sheet, right? But those are winning plays, and just got to continue making those.
KVN perhaps giving us some perspective on why it's been a quiet couple weeks for him, yet 6 sacks through 6 weeks, ranks 4th best in the entire NFL. And that's just a sack and a half off from Aiden Hutchinson, whose season unfortunately just ended in a gutting way for Detroit over the weekend. But you heard him. He vows to do, quote, a lot of research this week and going forward after being double teamed and or chipped often over the last 2 weeks. And that's at 33 years young. So they're getting obviously great contributions from KVN. He's got championship pedigree, caliber type of attitude, type of mindset, type of experience. But Dre, I got my concerns outside of him. I know Adafe's always around the ball, and I know they have candidates. But to me, I'm either looking at pass rush. I could definitely be convinced. You make a compelling argument about the fact that, knock on wood, if one or two, meaning Zay or Rashad, were to go down, That looks a
Yeah.
lot different from a pass catching standpoint, but I don't think that's magnified as much because of what they have in the tight end room. So, hey, I'll
Yeah.
let you go, brother. Safe
Let me
travels out there.
let me say this real quick, Bobby.
Get one
One
more
thing
in.
I love about KVN real quick is I say this a lot when I'm doing my life coaching sessions, and it's learning is a lifestyle. A lot of the times people feel like you can age out of learning. I love to see a guy, no matter what profession, a guy or a girl, no matter what profession they're in, being able to humble themselves enough to say, hey, I still have room for growth and development. Remember, everybody out there, remember, learning is a lifestyle. Make sure you live it.
Appreciate you, brother. Safe travels out there.
All right, man. Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Dre Dog from the road, Ubering, I believe. Message is clear, right? And that's just tell you, every championship winning DNA makeup got guys like KVN hanging around the locker room. 600 plus strong of you joining me here tonight. Glad you can be here. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, do all those good things for me. Julian, let's talk. Just a couple single bachelor boys here. Jewel, what you got for me?
Yeah, speaking of that, I just wanted to say you did the right thing. You did the right thing. Man, I'm telling you, the dating scene these days at our age, man, I get it. I totally get it. That same thing happened to me. So you did the right thing. Where I'm at with it is if she comes along, the right girl comes along, fine, whatever. But if not, yeah, it's what it is, you know. So it'll
For
happen one day.
context, just for
Yeah.
context for everybody tuning in, this was a dog park story that I've told twice now. One on my channel, one on the Vault. Of one that did not go in my favor. Meeting a fellow dog mom. How about that? Or a fellow dog parent. Let's go with that. So anyway,
Yeah.
what you got for me tonight?
So I heard what Dre said about the wide receiver core. He was right on. I mean, he was right on that. D Hop would be an interesting option. DeAndre Hopkins from the Tennessee Titans. I would say that. But if I had to go in the obvious route, would be secondary. Because that's been the most Achilles heel for us. I would go pass rusher, maybe Hassan Reddick, if they want to probably dabble in that. I mean, they
Good
could.
Lord.
I mean, if they wanted to dabble in that, I mean that it wouldn't kill to have enough pass rusher to
Listen, though,
overstep.
he's making a Le'Veon Bell level stupid decisions here.
Yeah.
So much so his rep was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Abandoned him. And then he had to go hire Drew Rosenhaus. And the guy's literally wasting money. He is literally burning money week in and week out. It's a total disaster up there with the Jets organization.
Yeah, it really was. Like that was not planned out well. I mean, he made a dumb decision even considering doing it. I mean, I understand players will hold out for that, but I'm just like confused in his situation. But all that aside, his talent is undeniable on the field. He's just a great pass rusher. But I would have to go with safety. And the guy that I would say that we should probably go after is Buda Baker from the Cardinals. That's a trade I probably would dabble in if I was EDC. Now, whether it happens, we will see. But I think that's one of the main areas we should attack, and probably, I don't know, relegate Eddie Jackson to special teams or something. I don't know, because I'm just not feeling Eddie Jackson. And then Marcus Williams the same way. We all had our complaints about those two. So I think Buda Baker is the guy for me that we should go after. He would
Here's the
definitely
issue.
solidify that.
Here's only the issue. Just to counter that, here's the issue.
Okay.
The amount of money they have invested in that position.
Yeah.
And not just that, an extension of a branch of that
Mm-hmm.
is how much money I would think they're going to want to have invested in that position over the next 2 years. When Kyle Hamilton is eligible to be paid, one.
Yeah, I forgot about
When
that.
two, you're probably going to want to extend Brandon Stevens given what he's developed into. I know he's caught some strays in recent weeks. I get it. There's that head technique that we all want to be fixed. But the guy does not allow separation.
Oh, he doesn't.
He is literally a cloth. He is a
He's like-
human cloth.
Yeah.
And so I think he is going to be eligible for an extension at some point in the near future. And Kyle Hamilton's going to reset the market at his position.
Oh, yeah, he is.
So given those two forthcoming, you would think, decisions,
Mm-hmm.
on top of what you already have invested, in Marcus.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie was, that's not a big investment, obviously, from the
Yeah, that
latter
was
half of free agency. That was piece
I
of cake.
didn't. Yeah, I didn't understand that acquisition. I mean, I get it. They probably wanted to add depth there, but I didn't like that signing at all. I thought they should have probably went after Justice Simmons, but I understand why they didn't because of his contract and then what he was asking for at the time. So I can understand that, but now looking back at it, you're like, man, you should have got Justin Simmons, even if it whatever he was asking for, would have been a little bit too pricey. But
Yeah, no,
yeah.
yeah, they were. That was just too much, unfortunately. But I tell you what, I, my hope, my hope is that a month from now, 2 months from
Mhm.
now, the likes of Sanusi and or Bo are
Yeah.
starting to push Eddie out of the rotation.
That
Bo
yeah.
finally got his opportunity to make his NFL debut last week. We have not seen him log a defensive snap yet. We saw him log 19 special team snaps.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't seen much from Sanusi either, aside from special teams. If
Right.
these guys can start to push, and I have no idea whether or not they're even going to be given a chance to because of Eddie's experience and veteran
Hmm.
status. I was going to say the money tied into him, and there's not a lot of money tied into him.
Right.
I would love to see that. I would love to at least see them get a chance. Should we not see a complete makeover on the back
Hmm.
end? We might see a makeover.
Yeah.
Let's give Dean an opportunity here to kind of get himself settled back into his old building
Right.
and start to divvy things up with Zach Orr accordingly so that Zach can kind of calm down
Mm-hmm.
and see things a little bit clearer with that veteran experience,
Mm-hmm.
in his ear. So I'm not ready to push the panic button yet. I thought they took a good step forward against a high-powered Commanders team. And
Mm-hmm.
while the Ravens are out of the gauntlet here that they've faced in this opening quarter of the season, it doesn't. I mean, Tampa Bay hangs
50. They put a
it's
50 burger on them
51 the other
Saints.
day. Yeah,
Yeah.
51. So, and if Mike Evans can go, I mean, he missed today. We'll see how he progresses throughout the week.
Yeah.
That's a big body wide receiver. Who are you going to be who's going to be tasked with taking care of him?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's going to be interesting too because he's not going to be less than 100%. You're not going to know what's going to become of that. So, like you said, yeah, the gauntlet is pretty much through. But at the same
the gauntlet.
time, you do have the Bengals again. You do have the Eagles again with that wide receiver core, and we still have to deal with Pittsburgh. Regardless, I mean, we haven't beat them in a while, so we got to deal with them. But other than
Precisely.
that, those are the two. I'll say two games. Cincinnati and Philly are the two games that's going to be again testing out resolve in this, in the back end. But I'll let you go, Bobby. Yeah, that's all I wanted to, drop on you a little bit.
I'll tell you this right now. Thursday night football coming up next month. Expect Cincinnati to go on a run and be going into that game 5-4.
I, I'm,
I
I'm,
expect them to show up at 5-4 football, having ripped
yeah,
off 3 or 4 straight wins. We'll see what the Ravens' record is at that point, but that will be a very meaningful game for Cincy.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, that game, they should be able to like be back in where they should be. Even though I want to end their season in
Yeah.
Thursday. I will be at that game, by the way. So I'm hopefully by then we'll get a victory because it ain't gonna be easy. They dropped like 500 plus total offense on us like that last time,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's not gonna be easy. But I'll let you
Hey,
go
you
back.
you you already know too. That Thursday night game that you just referenced that you're gonna
Yeah,
be at,
yeah,
that place is gonna be jumping that night. So hopefully you guys
yeah.
can come out to be more around town. I'll be doing my pregame live stream right outside the bank and
I'm gonna
prime
definitely,
time at the bank, baby. Black
I'm
it
gonna
out.
def, I'm gonna definitely make it there, Bobby. I've been trying to get to you. And I don't know,
Look
just
forward to it.
I'm gonna definitely meet up with you.
I look forward to it. Thanks for the call, brother.
No problem.
Talk to you soon. I want to finish here, guys, because I know this has certainly been on a lot of your minds after seeing that just heinous video from a guy named Jack Callis, played lacrosse at Roanoke. He's a Baltimorean, and he was a Baltimorean, unquestionably, in that video, going after a couple of young 20-somethings in Commanders jerseys. Well, Baltimore police have obtained an arrest warrant in connection with an assault, and this is the culprit right here. Jack Callis He's charged with first-degree aggravated assault and 3 counts of second-degree assault. Just 23-year-old who just threw his life away. I don't know what the sentence is going to be, and I don't know how serious, obviously, this will end up becoming for him. But all I've seen is his track record was suggesting that he was capable of doing something like this. And a lot of people that are familiar with Jack were not surprised at all. I just want to say this. I'm sad about what Fed Hill has turned into after hours, having spent a lot of time there during my Loyola days. I'm sad about what the game day experience in sports and stadiums has turned into at times, even though hopefully this is just the minority of situations that we dissect because they get the most pub around them. But I think it's sad when sports, or in this case, an awesome area in downtown Baltimore in Fed Hill, right outside the Cross Street Market, watersheds above you. You've got McGurk's and Crossbar and all these great game day spots, right? And when it turns into a boxing ring for absolutely no reason, it sheds a terrible light, a dark light on Baltimore. And he doesn't represent our city. He doesn't represent the Ravens fan base. He doesn't represent anything besides drunkenness. And a byproduct, of course, of drunkenness is what he did to these 2 innocent Commanders fans, one of whom got knocked out unconscious, right, from being suckered by Jack, who's a sucker himself, okay? So much so, after he did the deed, not only did he try to go after his buddy as well, but he's got his buddies, Jack's buddies, filming him for clout. And then pridefully going to post it all across social media. I hope they go and get and teach these guys a lesson. The ones that were filming this, egging on Jack. What a joke. It's a terrible part of today's society. Jack's, 23? Does that make him a Gen Z? What is he, Gen Z? Gen X? I know I'm a millennial at 30. Whatever he is, it's a terrible, terrible image. Saying things like, I don't lose, and we got a straggler at the top of his lungs, seeing his boys. Absolutely disgusted by this entire thing. The internet did its job. Law enforcement did its job. I commend Baltimore police. I hope those Commander fans are doing okay. And again, in no way does this Jack Callis guy represent anything we're about in this town. And I was just sickened to see that. I'll finish there. I know on a little bit of a sour note and an intense note, but it's hard not to be enraged. And it's just an infuriating video to watch on so many different levels. And one of my pet peeves is when bystanders don't do something when you're watching. And I get it. Like if you're a young woman that's watching that, don't put yourself in harm's way. I get that. But if you have your phone out and you're watching this so you can go post it and you're egging on your buddy who's clearly 3 sheets to the wind, it's just disgusting behavior. It is disgusting behavior, and it gives me such little hope for society coming up. He doesn't represent society, but in those moments of watching that on a game day, what's supposed to be a fun every 4-year moment, right, between the Ravens and Commanders does not happen very often. Instead, it turns into this massive, blown-up national story. And Jack got what he deserved. I appreciate you guys for being here. And as always, if you're enjoying the show, subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button, please, on the way out. Really helps us out from a discoverability and an analytical standpoint on the back end of YouTube. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when I'm dropping my live content. A special thank you to BetUS for sponsoring this episode. BetUS.com is where you can throw some money around on the game if you're interested in. Coming up Monday night, Ravens, Buccaneers in Tampa. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on the call. Sarah and I will, of course, be live tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern for a Friday Ravens lunch hour live stream, trying to track down a Buccaneers reporter to join us for our official game preview episode. And I look forward to that. You can join the Bobby Baltimore Discord server if you're interested. It's a 24/7 hub for conversations surrounding Baltimore sports. It is free to join, and there is a link that is a pinned comment right now in the live chat. Thanks, guys. I'll catch up with you soon. And as always, I got to see if Femi might be joining us tomorrow. TBD on that. I'll let you know when I know. But as always, I appreciate you guys for being here. We'll catch up soon.